You know, the first DCEU movie might have been the only one, at least the first one. Was it the only one? It was Aquaman. Aquaman was the first DCU movie to make $1 billion at the box office. And maybe ultimately it was the only one that did
Joker
it.
did, but it's not part of the...
Right, it wasn't part of the DCEU. And that shocked a lot of people, including me. Like, a lot of people thought this movie could be good. I thought it was going to make a lot of money, but I didn't think it would make $1 billion, to be honest with you. And it did. And I thought it was really fun. I know, Rob, you and I saw it together, actually.
I loved it.
And you had a great time. I enjoyed it. And the movie went on to make $1 billion. So, of course, you know they got to get a second one out. Now, here's the thing. Whenever a big movie is coming out, some jerkwad gets online and pretends that, oh, I've got the inside scoop on the test screenings.
Right.
Listen to me. Whenever you hear a report about test screenings, ignore it. Because people who go into test screenings have to sign NDAs out their ass that literally could cost them their livelihoods and everything if it got discovered they broke those NDAs, but whatever. So we heard, oh, whatever at the test screening of this movie got standing ovations. And then the movie turned out to be crap. It was bullshit. Then we heard, the test screenings of, remember this? The first Wonder Woman movie? Test screenings, people walking out of the test screenings of Wonder Woman. Turns out that movie was awesome and people really, really liked it. With the upcoming Aquaman 2, remember a couple months ago? First test screenings, people loving Aquaman 2. We heard those reports coming out, and I told everybody at the time, ignore those things. Well, now there's new reports coming from anonymous people, of course, saying, oh, people are walking out of the test screenings of Ant-Man 2 or of Aquaman 2. People are walking out of Aquaman 2. And again, you should just ignore it. You should absolutely always ignore any story about test screenings because anybody can just make shit up, put it out there, and 9 times out of 10, it's all bullshit. Now, that being said, sometime after those initial stories came out about real positive test screenings for Aquaman, I was talking to a filmmaker who has worked and done projects with Warner Brothers. And we had correspondence with them, and Aquaman came up, and I had to go digging back through my message history. Now, they told me this at the time. And by the way, I get told all the time. I get reached out to all the time by people say, hey, I'm inside the studio. I found out this isn't very good, or I've heard this is great, or hey, I have seen some of this and it's great. I've seen some of this is terrible. And most of the time I just like water off the back. I don't pay a lot of attention to it. But I bring this up for a reason. Let's go over to my screen for a second. So just about a month and a half ago, I'm having a correspondence with somebody, and I pulled this out of it, and because we were talking about Ant-Man 2. Now, this is a number of weeks ago, okay? Maybe a month and a half, maybe 2 months ago, whatever. And this is what this filmmaker who has worked with Warner Brothers said to me. I personally only saw a few minutes, and honestly, I liked what I saw. But the folks I talked to that have seen the whole thing isn't encouraging me. Really disappointing. Was said more than once. So again, this is about a month and a half ago. I had somebody who is connected to that studio system says, I have personally spoke with the people in the studio system who've seen it, and they were using the term really disappointing. Now, I hear stuff like this all the time. I never talk about it, whatever. The reason I bring up this correspondence today is because another person in our space who constantly comes up with very, very reliable stuff, Jeff Schneider. He just recently put this out. Do you guys have that graphic I sent you?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Let's bring that up. So Jeff Schneider, who has, of course, been putting up a lot of very reliable stuff. Let's take me off the screen there so we can read that. He said this, talking about Aquaman 2. I hear it's terrible. And that's why Momoa is going to be Lobo going forward. But they can't say that yet, because then it would be a lame duck. And DC is hoping to wring out another $1 billion out of the box office. The first one was awful too. I disagree with Jeff on that.
I do too.
I think the first one was a lot of fun. So not a huge surprise. So once I read Jeff said that, it just reminded me of the conversation I had. I went back, pulled out the message. So, completely ignoring the bullshit things going out there about the test screenings or that nobody knows what's in the test screenings. All right. But that said, I have been told, and I'm very enthusiastic for Aquaman 2. I love Jason Momoa. And I really enjoyed the first one. I did hear that the insiders on the studio saying it was very, quote unquote, very disappointing. Jeff Snyder, who I don't think is talking to the same people I'm talking to. Maybe he is, but I don't think it's the same people. Jeff Snyder saying he is hearing that it is terrible. And that to me is very, very concerning. And it's difficult to believe too because of the director, right? You got James Wan on this who does banger stuff. I mean, and I loved what he did with the first one. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe we have to temper our expectations. Listen, I never invest everything about my anticipation level for something I hear from one or two people. Because that's a fool's errand, right? You're just going to be bouncing back and forth all the time if that's what you do. But this does make me a little bit nervous. And I can't help but wonder if, Jeff kind of is drawing a connection. Granted, he's just speculating, but drawing a connection between the quality of the next Ant-Man and why they're looking to move Jason Momoa onto another character. Again, maybe that's much ado about nothing. Maybe it's much ado about a lot of things. I mean, I don't know. Hey guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, The Black Tux. It's time we had the talk. You know the one I'm talking about, the one that ends in the 3-letter word. I'm talking about a tux. And when you need a tux, the best place to go to get one is The Black Tux. The Black Tux makes it super easy to get an on-trend, top-quality, guaranteed-to-fit tux without ever needing to leave your house. So here's how it works. Take the Black Tux Fit Quiz, pick the style you want to wear, and boom, your tux is delivered to your door 10 days before the day you need it. That's plenty of time to try it on and make sure it wears you well. And hey, if the fit's not quite right, say hello to the Black Tux Fit Guarantee. Order a better size within a day or two of receiving the less than great fitting one, and they'll send another one right away at no extra cost. Their expert fit specialists will help you find the perfect style tux or suit and make sure it fits just right. Listen, I've been dubious in the past about online sites or apps that say they can get your measurements, but the Fit Quiz with the Black Tux works great. And man, I wish I had had these guys for so many events I've attended over the years. So rent or buy, the Black Tux is the best place to go when you need a tuxedo for a wedding or a special night. And right now, when you go to theblacktux.com/Campea and use the code Campea, you'll save $20 off your order. That's TheBlackTux.com/Campea, code Campea to save $20. But anyway, Rob, you're hearing these reports and all this kind of stuff. You love the first Ant-Man movie, but what are you making of all this?
Well, look, I mean, here's the thing. I don't believe anything until I see it, because
that's a good philosophy.
Movies are an iterative process, and I've heard so many times over the last 30 years I lived in LA, this movie's a disaster. I have heard that they're doing reshoots. They're like changing a significant plot point.
Every comic book movie
does
that.
And that's why I don't. And this opens in December, doesn't it?
Yes.
Like we're almost a year away from this movie.
Of course, it was supposed to open.
Sure.
Yeah, but like if they bumped it like a year.
But I think, and also, look, this movie, just like the first one, I'm sure the potential for goofiness is there. I mean, unless you're predisposed to liking sea creatures on other sea creatures that are armored, fighting in the ocean.
Sound like you were describing a very different kind of movie.
No. I mean, look, very Harryhausen-esque. A lot of people don't dig that. I love this about this movie. I think James Wan was channeling his Jason and the Argonauts and Seventh Voyage of Sinbad and all that. And that's why I love the movie so much. But there's a lot of people that's not their thing. So it might be a tonal issue. It might be something that it's too fantasy for them. I just don't buy it until we see the whole film. And the problem is people would rather report on things being bad than good.
Well, that's how you get headlines.
Yeah, so
you get attention by making that shit up.
Yeah, so there's a bias to the bad side anyway, and I don't even know what that means. Like, I hear it's awful, but the first one was awful too. When you say that, and I like the first one, what am I supposed to take away from that, Jeff? That if they made the movie that's similar to the first, good, bring it on. That's what I want to see. So I'm going to give James Wan the benefit of the doubt, Peter Safran the benefit of the doubt because he's producing it as well. So we'll see.
Anyway, now it's important to keep in mind too, this, even though James Gunn and Peter Safran are the heads of DC now, like the upcoming Flash movie, which we're all hearing is insanely good. This one not so good. It's important to keep in mind that while this movie will come out like almost a year into James Gunn and Peter Safran's leadership of DC, this is not their movie. This is a movie that was completed shooting and all that kind of stuff long before they took over. So anyway, Chris, you're hearing the stuff that I have heard. And we're now hearing from Jeff Snyder as well. I mean, you don't want to put all your eggs in just hearing from a couple sources, but I don't know. What do you think about all this?
I mean, Jeff is somebody who you can usually rely on and everything, but I do feel like there is this kind of ideology of, well, Warner Brothers is such a dumpster fire right now. So everything that they're going to be putting out for the most part is going to be really bad. And that's why we're scrapping everything. We saw Jason Momoa come out of a building really excited. We need to make sure we know why and why that move is happening. I think a lot of this is us trying to put some puzzle pieces together without having all the pieces there. So I like that first one. I think it's super fun and wacky. I had a good time watching it. I'm honestly not expecting something really highbrow from this film to begin with, though.
Right.
Like, I will throw that out there. But until we can see the movie, I don't know. We haven't even seen a trailer for this. I just feel like if it was that bad, it probably would have already gone the way of the dodo.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you feel about this? We all really like the first Aquaman movie. Been looking forward to the second one. I mean, I've been hearing not solid things, but again, not like a ton of it. So I kind of put it aside. But now Jeff is saying he's also heard it's terrible. And, you know, look, I don't agree with a lot of Jeff's opinions on things. But if Jeff says, I heard from sources it's terrible, Jeff don't lie.
No, he
like
doesn't.
if he said then that's what he got
He's
told.
pretty reliable.
So that doesn't automatically mean that it is terrible. I don't know. How does this affect your anticipation of the movie at all? I try not to let it at all, but are you surprised to hear this? You're not surprised to hear it? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.